like the invisible workforce. You don't notice us or know we're there until you turn the lights on and it doesn't come on. You attach your belt to your back and you clip off to the helicopter and you lean out and then you work while the helicopter hovers wherever you need to be.
Alex Wakeland is a journeyman lineman who spent nearly 2 decades keeping the lights on across the country. From leaving college to support his young family to earning a 6-figure income, climbing poles and working storm calls, Alex knows firsthand the rewards and the sacrifices of one of America's most dangerous and essential trades.
My dad didn't know that college degrees were going to turn into massive amounts of debt. The divorce rate in line work is over 80%, so it's really hard on families. That's including all linemen. If you go to the contractor side, closer to 90, 95. 10 fingers, 10 toes, no scars. That's what success looks like.
How much do you make? Hi, Alex. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Do you feel like a lot of people know what you do?
No.
Or know what a lineman is?
No, we're like the invisible workforce that like you don't notice us or know we're there until you turn the lights on and it doesn't come on. That's the only time people like realize people have to actually fix it.
Right. I think if people do know. So I was raised in New Orleans. That's where I grew up. So
I've worked there a lot.
Yeah.
You guys have issues.
After Katrina, when we were able to, we moved back into like our house that was flooded.
Mm-hmm.
When it was pretty bare bones, but like there was nothing around. We lost power every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day we just knew we were going to lose power. So
Mm-hmm.
I have a personal connection to linemen because I know that it was because of y'all that we were even able to get electricity when we were.
And it's crazy. Like they evacuate all you people and then they move us in immediately. So like before the storm hits, we're already there. So we sit in our trucks and in hotels while the storm rolls through, while it loses power, while everybody else is gone. It's like, it looks almost like an end of the world scenario.
Yeah.
It was the first time it happened to me, it was so eerie because like you're in the middle of a major metropolis like city and it's a ghost town. There's nobody there. Nobody's allowed outside and there's like National Guard. They're blocking stuff off. And you are in a utility truck just driving wrong way on the wrong one ways. Just, I got to get in this backyard. I'm just going to drive in this person's backyard. And it's kind of eerie, but also like really cool. It's like an experience most people never get to have.
Totally. So what got you into being a lineman?
So I was actually going to college in 2008. I thought I was going to be a psychologist, which that didn't work out. The housing crash of 2008 happened and my wife was pregnant and her father was a lineman at the local utility.
Okay.
And he was like, okay, like you need a job with health insurance and, you know, like a big boy job. Let's go get you on.
Yeah.
And he actually got me on as a tree trimmer because he didn't want to help me become a lineman because he didn't know me well enough, which at the time I was like, come on, I'm with your daughter. Like, why aren't you helping me more? And I realize now it's because line work is a very dangerous job. Tree trimming's also a dangerous job. And those guys the good ones are very highly skilled, but it's easier to wash someone out of that program because there's less money invested up front. Once you get into the lineman program, it's harder to wash people out. So he basically got me on as a line clearance tree trimmer to see if I could handle the work, if I could show up every day, had good work ethic. And he checked on me. He asked the guys like, is he good enough? And once I proved it after, I think it was a year and a half, then he helped me become a lineman apprentice. And then from there, I took to it way better than I thought I would. So when I first started, I swung a hammer like this, you know, I was a computer nerd, so I had no business with tools, but I had a really big willingness to learn and I had a family at home to support. So I wound up picking it up. And once I figured out like these puzzles are kind of fun, then I started really leaning into it hard and really like absorbing it.
When you were approached about potentially becoming a lineman, what were you thinking?
I was nervous that I wouldn't be able to make it because, like I said, I didn't grow up building things. My dad was a mechanic, but he told me he didn't want me to be blue collar. Like his expectation was I would have an office job because he worked in a factory and he saw how that can beat your body down and how, you know, if you get injured, there's nowhere to go with that, especially back then because it's like they're good skills. And nowadays it's easier with the internet and the network we have. But my parents' generation, they didn't have that big social network that they could pull on. So if you got injured as a mechanic and you didn't know what else or where else you could go, it's like, well, now you're bagging groceries and your whole life is going downhill. And so I kind of had that, I guess it'd be like a generational fear that would happen. And so I've always been like very much future thinking, prepare for your future, try to build a way out so that you're never trapped wherever you're at.
When you were growing up, did you have a huge family?
Mhm.
Did you talk about money?
It's not so much we talked about it, we just knew we didn't have it because
Mhm.
feeding 8 boys is like impossible.
Yeah.
My dad would like buy groceries on Monday and he's like, I'm not getting more groceries till Wednesday, and they would be gone Tuesday night, you
Yeah.
know? So it was like that constant pressure of like you need to make more, you need to outmake whatever your obligations are. And my dad did a great job of that, you know, and made sure we were never hungry for more than a day. And we always had clean clothes, clean shoes, you know, the whole nine. But he worked his ass off, and I got that from him. I got all my work ethic from him, where it was like, no matter what obstacle, and this is another thing, linemen, it's kind of a trap, but also a blessing. No matter what hole or setback I fall into, I know I can outwork it.
Mhm.
So if the air conditioner breaks, it's no problem. I'll go
Yeah.
get it. If the car breaks down and we need a new car, no problem. I'll go get it.
Yeah.
So and with the IBW and our health insurance, all of the medical scares that would normally wreck somebody, that's all covered.
Yeah.
So now it's like my job is, like I said, it becomes your life, it becomes your calling, you know, you get this kind of like honor and sacrifice. I'm doing all these hours for my family, but again, you get caught in that trap.
I think I can imagine a lot of parents have that trap in different ways with their career, but I think with the lineman, there's something a
Yeah, and
little
it takes
unique.
a special
Yeah.
person to be a lineman. You have to be a little bit arrogant. You have to be okay with risk. You have to be the type that thinks like, I'm good enough. I won't get got. Like those are the type of people that
Mhm.
linemen get attracted to being linemen.
Right.
And then you group them all together and you give them all Superman capes and you tell them they're the greatest people ever, and it's just like it's just a self-feeding animal.
So I can understand that feeling of like your parents want one thing for you, but things end up totally different. What was that feeling like for you? Did you feel any guilt? Did you feel like you were letting them down?
Well, I think everybody's parents have expectations on their kids, and you carry that weight with you, and it's almost like they're telling you, if I could do it different, this is what I would have done.
Mm-hmm.
And so like my brother's a travel nurse, so he kind of went through the college route and they were all proud of him. And then when I dropped out of college, they were like, it was almost like I was at my own funeral, you know, because like this is the death of your career. You will flip burgers forever. There's never going to be any opportunity. And when I got into this and I flourished, my dad actually said, you know, like, I wish I would have done what you did. Like you
Wow.
did the right thing. And so that lesson taught me about my own children. Like I'm not going to know the world that they're growing into, just like my dad didn't know what I was
Mhm.
growing into. He didn't know that college degrees were going to turn into what they are now. Massive amounts of debt,
Right.
not a lot of opportunity,
Mhm.
AI taking over everything. Back then, you were told like just learn to code, you'll have a job forever.
Yeah.
And now AI codes.
Right.
And so I've learned from that experience with my own children that I need to lean into what they want to do, because they will actually understand the world better than I will at their age.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I had that kind of initial sticker shock, I guess, but once I started being successful and I made it through the apprenticeship and started, you know, not repeating the mistakes he did, cuz like, you know, he hurt his back, he
Yeah.
got his finger smashed, you know, he had this preconceived notion, you will follow my path, you will do what I do. And I was like, no, I saw what you did, Dad. I'm not going to do that. So I try to lift properly, protect my fingers, those type of things. So like we learn those lessons from our parents, and I don't think they give us that credit right off the bat until, you know, years later.
Right.
Now they're super proud of me, but my dad worked at the same factory since he was 18 until he retired. And so the first time, we call it dragging up, the first time I quit a job, he about like lost his mind. He got sick. He's like, why would you leave that job? I'm like, no, this is how this industry works. If I don't want to work here anymore, I quit and I go get another job. And there's another job waiting for me over here. I've already talked to him. And he's like, you can't be doing that. You need the stability. And I'm like, this isn't a stability job. This is a kind of a feast or famine type of job.
Yeah. So explain that to me a little bit more.
Yeah, so we have in the IBW we have halls, and each hall has their own jurisdiction, and each jurisdiction has its own pay scale and own conditions. So you can kind of like, if you're real smart, you can play the market. When the market's down, you go east and you put a bunch in your retirement because your shares buy or your money buys more of the market. And then when the economy is really good, you go west because you can do more with your money up front than you can with it in your retirement. So you can kind of ebb and flow anywhere you want to go. So I just got off a project in Detroit. I just took a call here in Chicago. So I'm starting another job in Chicago. So it's like I've been to Houston, I've been to Florida, I've been to Hawaii, I've been all over the place and been paid to be there.
Can you explain what the IBW is?
The IBW is the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. It's the oldest and strongest union. It's one of the only unions that didn't break during the Great Depression. We have this really cool thing where it's we have like a negotiation table where it's the manpower and the contractors, and they negotiate a deal together, and then the utility just gets whatever deal they negotiate. So it's like, this is what's good for the industry. And during the Great Depression, it was a pay cut. A lot of unions don't have that kind of metric built into there. And I think that's why our brotherhood is one of the strongest unions in the world.
What was the process of joining the union? Like, why did you do that?
Being in Illinois, like I didn't have a choice. All skilled labor here is, at least in the IBW, is union.
Okay.
So I went to my local union where my father-in-law was from, signed up, told them what I wanted to do. They needed somebody to go work. So then I got on to the job. And they put you on a probation for like 90 days. And if you screw up in that 90 days, then you're out. But if you don't, then you get into the program. They send you to school, they send you to classes, and it's just like basically an associate's degree towards building power lines. So when I started as a tree trimmer, that got me into the IBW. It started them paying into my retirement plan. It gave me health insurance, all the good stuff that everybody wants, especially nowadays. And then when I wanted to become a lineman apprentice, they don't take apprenticeship applications all year long.
Mm-hmm.
They'll post on their website that like we're taking them in between these dates, and it'll usually be like a 4-day span, and they'll get like flooded with like 40,000 people. So if you're in the IBW already, like a tree trimmer, you have a little bit better chance. If you already have first aid, CPR, you have a CDL, your chances get a little bit higher. So they kind of filter through. And the good news is, with the advent of all the data centers, we are hurting for people. So there is a huge push to try to get as many apprentices up and in the program as possible. So there's a huge demand for it. And AI is, most areas of work, AI is slowing down the job market. And in my area, it's just speeding it up. So, and we're damn near recession proof. Like during the COVID thing, everybody's paychecks seemed to diminish. Mine almost doubled, because they needed us everywhere and nobody wanted to travel. And so storms would hit and it was way more money, way better conditions. Just, they were treating us like gold because nobody else could move around. We had a presidential pardon on all restrictions. So I could drive anywhere I wanted, anytime I wanted, no restrictions, which was, again, super weird. Like you could drive the highway so fast and the cops would just be like, they wouldn't even care. It was wild.
When you started out with being a lineman, were you thinking this is probably the rest of my life?
No. So that's one thing I think that I'm different in. The younger generation, I think, is I identify with them a lot more because I've had a computer since I was in preschool. But I learned from all the guys who they still to this day don't even have they don't even have flip phones. They have like the old Nokias. Like they hate phone. They hate technology. This is the way we've been doing it 100 years. We're going to keep doing it. Those type of guys. So I got to learn that like old school mentality. So they kind of treated the trades as like a coffin you climb into. It's like, I'm doing this job. I'm going to do this job until I retire. There's nothing else. This is it. And I see it as like a launch pad. So like young people can get into the trades. You can have this skill. Nobody can take that away from you. And then you can go chase whatever passion you have. If you have a passion for being a restaurant owner, you can use this to pay to open the restaurant. If something goes wrong with the restaurant, you still have a retirement package. You still have somewhere you can go, and you can just pick up and be like, well, we had a good run, and you can go do something else. I think it's crazy to me that people think that you should do one thing forever. I don't think people were designed that way.
It's definitely a generational thing. Like definitely our parents' generation, like that's what you did. You worked at one place and you did one thing. And now I'm 31. I've had a lot of jobs, a few. And it's just such a different experience. So I totally understand that. But I have a lot of questions. One being, this is kind of our golden question, or titular question, I should say. How much do you make?
So one like I said, the coolest thing about being a contractor lineman is I get to decide. So I've if I average all my money for the last 10 years, I've never made less than 200,000. But on my
Wow.
best years, I've made 425,000.
Wow.
So it's literally like how hard do you want to work, how many hours do you want to put in, where do you want to put them in at. I will say that came with a lot of sacrifices. Like you're gonna miss birthdays, you're gonna miss holidays, you're gonna miss anniversaries, things like that. So there is a very real upfront cost, and that's usually what takes people out. So once those costs accumulate, guys like me start saying, doesn't matter how much money there is because I built my exit plan. I'm not doing this anymore. And then they can't get you to show up. And that's where this experience lack is coming in because we were smart enough. We listened to our parents to not get in huge debt, to make sure we had, a savings account to fall back on. So we don't need the money. We like the money because it,
Yeah.
affords a better lifestyle, but we don't need it any longer. And a lot of the older guys are going home. They're working 40 hours a week. I don't want to go on storms. I don't want to go on any overtime. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to go home and play with my grandkids. And they've earned that. But now we have all these young guys that are out chasing money, and there's nobody older to kind of pull the reins back to be like, hey, slow down. You're going to make a mistake. And so the industry as a whole is having a lot of issues because the money is such a big carrot. Because like you tell an 18-year-old, in 4 years you can go to California, you make 500 grand. They're going to be on it like that.
Right. Something that we talk about with all of our guests are the trade-offs. And I know you just brought that up. And when I was prepping for this conversation, that was something that really struck out to me were the trade-offs. So I'd like to just hear a little bit more about that and how you navigate that and just how it's so different than any other industry.
I don't know if it's so much different than other industries other than the fact that like the location that I personally am is all over the place. So, I mean, I've called my wife and been like, hey, I'm in New Orleans. And then the next day it's like, hey, we're going to New York now. And then I call her again. It's like, oh, we're on our way to Florida. So we call them storm widows. It's like storm season. Your husband's just always gone. It's like, is he still there? Yeah, he's still here, but like you'll never see him.
Yeah.
And we have 4 kids together, and she was able to stay at home and raise the kids until they went to school. She's now a school counselor.
Oh, cool.
So she was able to stay home and raise the kids, which is super rare for this generation. And I live better than what my parents did, which in today's day and age, that's like a monumental effort. But most of the burden fell on her. She was raising the kids. I was paying for it, but she was the one, managing the household, making sure when I came home, there was food or something for me to do because I may have just worked 16 hours, drove 2 hours to get home. And it's like, I'm worthless for the next 2 days. So she's still on her own, even though I'm there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those trade-offs. And I think the divorce rate in line work is over 80%. So it's really hard on families. And that's including all linemen. If you go to the contractor side, I would say it's closer to 90, 95.
Wow. Okay, I'm not trying to get too personal, but with those numbers, how do you make it work?
Her. she doesn't, she's aware of like how hard the economy is and stuff. And then I've always been a dreamer and I've always dreamed huge. So like, I've never been shy about telling her like, I want to do helicopter line work, which is, you fly around on helicopters and do cool stuff. And so when the opportunity came, I was like, I have to go do this. And she's like, I know, I'm annoyed, but go ahead.
Yeah.
So then I got to go do that. And so she's allowed me to chase all of these dreams and do all of these things because she's picked up all the slack. And I think it's unpaid. Like she's at home by herself.
Yeah.
So I made 200,000, but I could have stayed home at the local utility, made probably closer to 100,000. She could have made 80. We would have had about the same lifestyle, but she wouldn't have been able to raise the kids. And that was important to us. So it's like, I made this sacrifice, she made that sacrifice, and that's kind of how we've navigated.
Has she had a bit more understanding because her dad?
I think so. If her
in the
dad wasn't an
industry?
lineman, I think she would have left way sooner.
Yeah.
But her dad was a local utility lineman, so he didn't have to go out of town as much.
Got it.
But he was on call 24/7. That's like kind of their trade-off. So he'd have to, get up in the middle of the night and leave. And so she kind of knew that stuff. And the cool thing about being a contractor is when I'm done, I can go home and I'm not working. I'm home.
Yeah.
And so I now that I'm older and we've kind of built a little bit of a cushion, now I try to take 2 to 3 months off a year, and I still can make $200,000 a year, even with 2 months off a year.
One thing that you'd said, and part of the reason I brought up your father-in-law, it seems like it's kind of a club that you need to know someone to get into.
It's easier to get in with a club, but not because of the reason people think. It's because if you have somebody close to you that's in the line industry, we know you know what you're getting into. Because so many guys, they look great on paper. They come out to the job and we're like, hey, you're going in this remote area with no facilities for a storm and you're going to be there for 2 months. And then they quit. And we've invested all this time and energy and money into them. And it's like, what do you mean you didn't know this was the job? Like, this is the job.
Yeah.
And if you have somebody close to you that you can point to and say, you know, my uncle's a lineman or my brother's a lineman or my dad's a lineman, I know what I'm getting into, then we feel a lot more comfortable investing that money into you. But with the advent of social media, I think more people are getting aware of that and more people are getting aware of linemen in general.
Yeah.
And so it's getting a lot easier to get into. But again, there's this lag of the people in charge are still 50, 60 years old. Some of them are in their 70s. So it's like the younger, I say younger because, you know, it's me, but like the middle-aged people, I guess, are starting to get into positions where they know, like, these people know what they're getting into and they're coming on board. So it's getting easier, but there still is a little bit of a stigma of like, do you actually know what job you're signing up for? Because it's a dangerous job. And nobody wants to be the guy who greenlit an apprentice that then goes out and gets burned or gets injured, because that's horrific. It's life altering.
Can you talk a bit about the dangers of the job? Because it is a really dangerous industry.
It's that's one of the reasons why we're the oldest, strongest union. When in our founding, if you hired 3 linemen, 2 of them would be dead by Friday. And that was like the acceptable loss rate. Oof. So we formed a union and started pushing safety metrics and PPE and, you know, minimum clearances and just education and all that kind of stuff. And so that's really what drove the union adoption, was this safety factor. And the best way to get that is mentorship. And with that, like I was talking about earlier, with that vacuum of the experiences leaving, and we have all these young guys out there, they don't have the experience to know when to go fast and when to slow down. And so the industry as a whole is really struggling with that. And so, and like I said, I've been around a couple really bad accidents, and they definitely change you and they'll change how you work. But until you hit one of those, like, you think you're invincible until it happens to your buddy or until something happens close enough to be like, oh, that could have been me. I've done that activity before and I didn't get caught, but he got caught. And so it's like, we call it seasoning out. So you top out and you're pretty dangerous for about the first 2 years due to inexperience. But then the next 3 years, you're dangerous because you think you know more. And that's when a lot of accidents happen, is that 5 to 7 year window.
Have you personally been involved in a serious accident?
I have not. I have all my hands and no burn scars or nothing. But like I said, I came up when the average age of a lineman was like 45 to 50. Okay. So these guys had all done those mistakes for me. So when I went up to go do something, they would stop me and then they'd tell me their horrific tale about something that happened to them. And so I got like this secondhand experience, and there's just not enough of that mentorship going on, because now with the way computers are, back then you had radios, you didn't have GPS, nobody knew where you were at. So if you got tired or if you got hot, you could just take a break. Now they're like, we know where you're at, we know what you're doing, we know how much you got done. We're on units, which is like, we get paid per job, you get paid per hour. So we need you to give us as much units as possible. So those corners are getting cut, and those corners that get cut, every time you cut a corner and nothing happens, it's like a reward. You got paid more money, you got an attaboy, you're a hero. Eventually, cutting those corners will lead to a fatality, but there's no way to stop that reward process at the moment. And that's one of the projects that I'm trying to get in place, is like a way to like reward the behaviors you want instead of rewarding all these terrible behaviors.
Yeah. One thing that you've mentioned is there is some like tension within the industry right now. In my mind, being a lineman and what you're doing is so like, I could see it being almost a little dated
Hmm.
and there being kind of a struggle between what you're doing, which is power lines that were installed a
Hmm.
long time ago in 2025.
Yeah.
What is that like?
So the public has a really skewed perception on
Hmm.
how power lines work. So
Yeah.
they think we should just put everything underground.
Okay.
But that triples the cost of installation, of maintenance, of troubleshooting, of outages. So if you have an underground system and you have an outage, it's going to take me 3 times as long
Hmm.
just to figure out the problem,
Yeah.
then 3 times as long to fix it. But they are more robust and they last longer. But if we were to put them all underground all at the same time, they're all going to fail at the same time. So there's like some strategy behind how we do that. But trying to explain that to the general public is really hard, especially during a storm where they're out of power.
Right.
And so you have that issue. And then there's this tension in the line industry because linemen are a very scarce resource.
Hmm.
We're one of the only industries that the worker themselves is the scarce resource.
Right.
There's plenty of contractors, there's plenty of trucks, there's plenty of work. We just can't get enough bodies that are trained well enough to do this job. And you can't just pull people off the street and be like, here, go.
Right.
It takes years to get these people. And so we as the worker have a lot of power. And when we don't want to do something, we can dig our heels in and become a huge pain for the whole industry. So
Mhm.
we have a no strike clause, so we can't like strike and take everybody out of power or something, but we can do things that will force a company to do what we want rather than doing what's profitable. And part of that is the company wants more apprentices faster, and the workforce wants better apprentices, full stop. So the workforce is like, we're going to slow them down. We're not going to let them through the program so fast, while the companies are saying, speed up. We need more. Let's go. Let's go. So that's the major tension that I'm seeing. And that's just from taking like a look back view of the whole situation.
Yeah. How many people are you typically working with at a time?
So that varies wildly.
Mhm.
The job I'm on right now, we have 4 guys. The last job I was on, we had 26
Oh,
guys.
wow.
And then there's a couple jobs I was on where they'll have actual multiple show ups and you could
Mhm.
have up to 300 guys on it. So it's whatever the project needs. And that's part of the secret sauce is like whatever your requirements are,
Mhm.
we will provide enough manpower for that project.
And the people you work with, are they all men?
I think it's like 97% are men,
Okay.
and I'm not saying this like in a bad way, but the women that are in the trade, they have so much visibility that they're your boss. Like they top out, they're good workers, but because they're known and the whole company, like if you have a female on the crew, the whole company knows you have a female on the crew. Because of that visibility, if she puts in for a position, she's going to get it.
Mhm.
And then she usually rockets up to superintendent or foreman, or they might put her over safety because the other thing is that that company wants that woman on their payroll. They want to say, we have a female
Right.
lineman. And it's actually really good for the industry because they have a different view. So they have like a more emotional view. So they're not like, and I know I'm leaning into stereotypes, but it's kind of a thing, I guess. But they understand that like not everything should be about numbers. Some of it should be about like these guys haven't slept in 24 hours. Leave them alone, let them have a nap. And like some of the guys are like, "Oh, no, this is what we pay them to
Mhm.
do. Get to
Mhm.
work."
Yeah.
And that's just been my personal anecdotal experience, but
I can
that's kind of what I've
understand that.
seen.
I can understand that, definitely. That's interesting. Well, I'll go back to my first question, which is, so with the people that you work with, did they get into this industry in a similar way? They kind of knew someone or had a family member?
A lot of them did, but the younger guys, a lot of them didn't. So the older guys, absolutely, almost
Mhm.
every one of them, it's a family tradition. They have generations of linemen in their lineage. And then the younger guys, though, a lot of them are just, I didn't want to go to college. I was looking for a trade I could do, and it was either this or be a pipe fitter,
Mhm.
and this called first.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how the younger generations get in because like I said, the dollars are very attractive. You you have you don't have to worry about AI taking your job.
Mhm.
You don't have to worry about the economy pulling back and you losing your job. There's plenty of work available. So
Yeah.
it's like if I wanted to plan a lifetime career, this would be one of them that I could pick.
when you say like some of the people they didn't want to go to college, do some people still like, do they get an associate's
Yeah.
before becoming?
So one of the nice things about being in the union is once you're in the union, we have programs to help you go to college.
Yeah.
So what's great about being a lineman is I can decide to take off all
Mhm.
summer if I want to, and I can get unemployment and my hall will help me go to college, and I could just pursue a totally different path because I've done this. And it's once you get through the apprenticeship, they expect you to give, they call it giving back, which is like mentor the next
Mhm.
people. They expect you to give it back. I think it's about 4 years. And then it's like not frowned on if you decide to go pursue something else. You could go into electrical engineering, you could go into safety, you could go own a restaurant, whatever you feel like doing. And they'll help you pay for college, and there's union specific loans and things that you qualify for. Very supportive hall.
What has being in a union taught you about unions or just about
Yeah.
your work in general?
So being in a union and the way that I travel, especially having such a large family, I have a brother that's down south in a non-union territory. So he gets all the like non-union propaganda, and then he tells it to me, and I'm like, none of that's true. So like we can troubleshoot that together, and it's cool traveling the country,
Uh-huh.
and everywhere I go, there's somebody there that knows me. So I came up here to Chicago for this job. I walked onto the job site, and there's a guy there that I went to the apprenticeship with. He's like, "Hey, how's it going, man? I just live down the road. Why don't you come stay at my house?" It's
Yeah.
all right, cool. So, and then you get to stay, eat dinner with their family. Like, it really becomes an extended family network. And even right now, I can go to pretty much any major city, and if I ask for help at the union hall, there will be somebody there to help me, which is, it's humbling to like see that in action, because a lot of people talk about it, but they never actually get to experience that big sense of community. And it really leans well with military personnel. So military
Mhm.
personnel get out and they're looking for that camaraderie. They're looking for
Yeah.
that fellowship type of workforce. And this is one of those that is very alive and well. If you mess with one of us, the whole group of guys gets angry. It's
Yeah.
not a good look.
That's pretty cool though. I mean,
Oh yeah.
we don't have like a social media strategy
No.
or digital
No,
marketing.
and I've seen that in other careers. So I've worked with a couple of like consultants and things like that, and it's kind of the opposite. Like you're competition with each other,
Mhm.
and with mine, we're not competing on anything. We're brothers. Like I want you to make it just as much as I want to make it.
Yeah.
If you eat, we eat. We all eat. That's what we're we guys, not me guys. So it's
Yeah.
like that's and it's that dirty word of socialism, but it's like it's socialism within capitalism for the betterment of capitalism. Like it's the guardrails capitalism needs. And I think that's where unions have their place.
I also grew up in the South.
Mhm.
I have heard the anti-union. I'm
Mhm.
not trying to say the South in general.
Well,
All
no,
over the country.
right, but that's where it's the strongest and it's the most, like if you tried to be anti-union in Chicago, it wouldn't happen. They'd
Right.
just shut you down. But if
Yeah.
you'd be anti-union in Alabama, nobody's going to shut you down. You have a platform there.
What do you think some of the biggest misconceptions are of being in a union?
So the biggest one is like you pay to work.
Mhm.
And what that is you give a working assessment. So when I work, the union takes 2.5% of the money in this particular contract I'm on. 2.5% of what I make goes to the union as working dues.
Mhm.
And in exchange for doing that, they go and negotiate my rates. They make sure I get paid properly. If I need legal consultation, they will take care of it. If I'm injured at work, they got me covered. Like they are 100% in your corner for that 2.5%. And the South will be like, why would you ever pay to go work? And I'm like, because I get all of, like, here's the list of benefits I get. And that's the part, they don't tell you about the benefits you get. They just tell you like, oh, why would you want to do that? And so I think that's the big misconception. Another one is that like there's the trope like the union break, the union's lazy, blah, blah, blah. And they're not lazy, but they are structured. We want these breaks. There's overtime on Saturday, not just because you deserve more money, but because your company should pay you enough that you don't need to work that. It's a punishment for the company.
Right.
Because you should be able to get your work done in 40 hours at a livable wage. And if you can't, that's their problem. They messed up. You should get compensated for that. And I think people see overtime as a reward now. And I think they've lost the fact that it's supposed to be a punishment
Mhm.
because they should plan to have their work done in 40 hours.
Right. That's such a good way of looking at it. And do you get your benefits through the union? How are the benefits?
They're awesome.
Yeah.
When I showed my dad my benefits, he didn't believe me. He thought I was reading them wrong, and I had to bring him a contract because and every contract's different. But in the Midwest, a lot of the retirement is 25% of your gross. So I don't put in anything, and they put in 25% extra on top of that into an account for my retirement.
Wow.
Yeah, my dad didn't believe me. He's like, "No, it's got to be a 401k match or, up to 6%." I'm like, "No, Dad, I don't put anything in." And the way we got that was kind of morbid. Like, they used to think we would die, so they had to give you a big retirement so that your wife and kids could survive after you died. But then they can't take it away from us because we already have it.
Right.
And then we have your health insurance. That's all covered. You don't put in anything. You have to work a minimum per month type of thing. But that's covered. You have some copays and stuff. But like I said, if you get sick or your wife gets sick or one of your kids gets sick, it's not going to financially ruin you forever.
Wow.
And so that's where, and then you have life insurance that comes through the hall as well. So they take very, very good care of us as workers. And that's the major reason why, like, I've seen the workers on the non-union side and they don't get taken care of nearly as well. And I'm not knocking them for working that way where they're from because that's just what's available. But I think they're worth more. And it's a weird conversation to have with somebody to be like, "Hey, I think you're not getting paid enough." And they're like, "You just want my money." And I'm like, "No, I want you to make more money specifically." But I'm making some headway with that. I have like an online group that has around 1,200 members now.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're guys that are making the switch, that are trying to come over. And I grew up union. My great grandpa was in a union. My grandpa was in a union. My dad was in a union. So like I know all the union terms. I eat, sleep, and breathe union from a kid, listen to the coal miner stories.
Yeah.
So like I know all of those things and I take it for granted and I forget that I had to be taught those things once too. And so I opened up this group to kind of be like, I'll teach you these terms. I'll teach you how, like what it's like to go get a job somewhere else, how you tramp around, how to build a network, all of those things. Cause I took it for granted because I learned it since I was a baby.
You've talked a lot about technology. Can you talk a little bit more about how you see technology fitting into this industry?
Yeah. So one thing about this industry is very archaic. Like we still use pens and papers. You still have to have like a voided check to get direct deposit. It's very, very old school. Paper maps, like the whole nine.
Yeah.
And coming from having having a computer since preschool, I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
You guys built the internet. Well, you laid the cables for the internet.
Yeah.
Why aren't you using it?
Yeah.
And so at first, I was just a young lineman, not enough experience to be taken seriously. Now that I have as much experience as I do, now people are starting to take me seriously. And I'm actually working with this company, Junction, and I'm trying to build digital protective equipment. So this is, in a nutshell, it's a digital database for me that I can use to go to work. So instead of giving away all of my data, which is the most valuable thing you have at the moment, instead of giving it to all of these different contractors all over the country, I'll just give them green check marks that says everything that you need me to have, I have. It's been verified by them, so we're good to go. And then they don't have to secure all that personal identifying information. They can't lose it. And they're also in 100% compliance, which lowers their insurance. It makes it faster for me to go to work, streamlines a lot of things. And it's just, this industry is still led by people that are much older that don't trust technology yet. So I've spent almost my entire career trying to educate my fellow linemen that are very tech adverse. That's like, this will help you. And it's super exciting because I'm working with a union hall and it's like, this data that you have is so powerful and it's so dangerous if somebody else were to be in charge. And just like I think unions are the guardrails of capitalism to keep it from like going off its rails, I think the same thing, unions need to be in charge of this data because even if you're not in a union, you're going to benefit from those guidelines. So if the union says you can't use facial scan biometrics to deny somebody's claim, then that will be the rule.
Right.
But if you don't have somebody who has the worker's best interest at the helm, it could get very hairy very quickly, as we're seeing, especially with AI and all the fakes and everything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. How is AI potentially affecting your industry?
So it's had a much bigger impact than most people thought.
Yeah.
because fakes are so easy to make. So now we get people showing up on storm. And to put it into context, if you go on a storm, it's generally all double time. So if I can sneak onto a storm, I could potentially make $8,000 a week take home. So that's a huge, motivational carrot for somebody to lie about being a journeyman. And with the advent of AI, it's very easy to spin up a fake union ticket that looks like it's beat up, that looks like it's been scanned several times, that looks like it's tramped all over the country. And oh yeah, I'm legit. And by the way, we need you boots on the ground in 4 hours. There's no way right now to check that. So now you have these linemen showing up that are not real linemen that are getting thrown in with all of us.
No way.
And then we catch some of them, but the fact that they're still continuing to show up means there's a lot more we're not catching. And that's where digital protective equipment comes in, because then I can make union tickets cryptographically verified. Your driver's license could be biometrically attached to you. So like nobody could impersonate you. Nobody could impersonate a lineman. And that's another issue we have, especially out in like California, where they have gated communities, things like that. Like they don't let people there. But if I'm with the utility, I can go anywhere I want. I was literally walking through the backyards in Hollywood inspecting poles during 2019 after the fires. They couldn't stop me. I was allowed to go anywhere I wanted. But if somebody impersonated me, they're also allowed to go wherever they wanted. So you're walking through the backyards of all these, multi-million-dollar people, and they have no way of knowing if I'm legit or not. And so it's turned into a convoluted mess, and we're just working on untangling it now.
That's so interesting. So people are using AI to impersonate actual linemen whose names are like in.
Their names aren't even in. They might just spin up a fake number, fake ticket. It's just by the time you catch them, the storm's already over and they've already left.
Because it's so quick.
It's so quick.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was like, surely this industry is untouchable.
Right. You would think it's one of the healthiest, most financially like healthy industries because of all the money. Like nobody's going to shut their power off. These data centers are dumping millions into the grid.
Right.
Microsoft is buying a nuclear plant.
Yes.
Like that's insane. They're going to build new transmission lines.
Yeah.
Microsoft. So it's like, it's crazy. And the reward for these fake linemen is we don't have to pay linemen as much because we don't really know if they're real or not. And then they have more accidents and that's more expensive. So it actually hurts the entire workforce.
If you could go back and tell yourself something from before you became a lineman, what is something that you wish you knew, or something you would tell yourself?
Well, that one's a tough one, because it's like, had I known everything I know now, I probably wouldn't have pursued the work so hard. I would have taken more time off. I would have been with my family more. But I had this sense of urgency, like it was gonna leave. And I would probably go back and tell myself, like, there's another job. There's more work. There's always gonna be more work. Go enjoy yourself. Have a hobby. Because that's one of the things that linemen fall into, is the work becomes your hobby, it becomes your life, and becomes a personality. All my friends are linemen. All my friends are on the right of way. So if I go home to be with my family, none of my friends are there. All my friends are on the right of way at work. And I have this very strong connection to them, like I said, like that brotherhood. Because, I mean, you're out there cheating death together.
Yeah.
The bonds are pretty tight. Sometimes a little too close. But that makes you want to be around your buddies. Well, if your buddies are at a job, I got to go to that job. It just happens to be in Arizona when my family's in Illinois.
Right.
So that's a trap that I would warn any young person about getting into.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, it doesn't sound like you have that much time for a hobby or anything outside of that.
No, you're pretty much working all the time, but it's interesting work. And like, you can do helicopter line work, which is super fun. It's super exciting. You get the adrenaline rush.
What does that entail?
So imagine a small helicopter, and you attach your belt to your back and you clip off to the helicopter and you lean out, and then you work while the helicopter hovers wherever you need to be.
Wow.
And then another one is like long lining, where they pick you up by a long line. It's a rope they hang down underneath, and they'll fly you to wherever your job is, drop you off on towers and structures. I was out in Hawaii doing that, and we got to go see places that nobody else is allowed to go because there's power lines there. So we got to go to these beautiful, gorgeous places that nobody else is even allowed to go to build power lines. We got to go through forest preserves in Oregon and Arizona. It's just like stuff that it's not on a map. It's not on a hiking trail. There's no way to get there other than this remote access helicopter work. And you're out there doing stuff that everybody's like, that's impossible. There's no way you could do that. And you're out there killing it with your friends. So it's like, it gives you that huge ego boost.
Yeah.
You know, you put on your Superman cape and it just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. And then you come home and they're just like, do the dishes. You're like, I used to be cool. But doing the dishes is its own type of cool.
Right. Oh my gosh, that sounds so, I mean, I'm like fear averse or adventure adverse in that way.
Yep.
But I mean, that sounds very cool and
It's so
interesting.
fun.
But have you ever been like scared?
Yeah, that's part of it though.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah, I
the
guess.
fun part, you know, like people go on roller coasters like I was never scared. It's like, well, why are you going? Like,
Right.
what are you, dead inside?
Right.
No, it's super fun. Like you'll get on I got on a crane basket and it was like one of the tallest crane baskets. I think it went like 300 feet. Everyone's like, oh, you're not afraid of heights. I'm like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Watch this. As soon as you get above where you're used to, you get that fluttering in your stomach. You start getting scared and you just got to push through it. And then once you get past it, then it goes away and then you can like settle in and have fun. But it's the same thing with helicopters. Like you fly up and all of a sudden it's like you're looking down, you can see all the islands of Hawaii and you're like, how high are we?
Oh my god.
Why is it cold?
Yeah.
You're like, what am I doing?
Am I in space?
Yeah, you're like, why?
Yeah.
Whose idea was this? Why did I think this was great? And then,
Wow.
you know, you kind of settle in and start having fun with it. And then you're like, you're no pilot, you can't fly. And then they'll kind of give you a little ride, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you've definitely experienced things people can't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So I can also see how that creates that bond
Yeah.
between you and other linemen.
Yeah. And that's the highlight reel, you know? So I always try to lead with like, you're going to miss family stuff. You're going to miss birthdays. You know, if you want to be a completely dedicated father, be there all the time, this probably isn't the trade because it'll take you away from that.
Right.
And I did want to do that, but I also wanted to make sure my children had everything. And so this was how I did that. So I and you negotiate with yourself the whole time. Like, I can miss this birthday because they're going to pay me this much and I'll get them a good birthday present. And really, your kid just wants you to be home.
Yeah.
And so it's, like I said, as a young guy, and I was a very young father. So it's like, once you get to the older guy eyes and looking at it, you're like, man, I missed a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But I got to do a lot of cool stuff.
What does success look like to you?
So for me, success, now that I'm older, success looks like 10 fingers, 10 toes, no scars. Like that is a success path.
Yeah.
You can break equipment, you can have outages, you can have mistakes, but we call those failing successfully. So any successful fail is when there's no injuries.
Right.
And so to me, that's what success looks like in this industry. And that was brought on by the workforce because the company's idea of success is 0 accidents. Nothing goes wrong. Everything goes 100% right. Well, an accident is not on purpose. That's the definition of an accident.
Right.
So for the manpower, what we started pushing was fail successfully. So none of us got hurt. Maybe we broke a truck. Maybe we broke this piece of equipment, but none of us were in the danger zone. None of us got injured. That's a successful day. We'll deal with the broken truck. We'll get a better practice, but we don't have to make any calls to anybody's wife to tell them they're not coming home.
Yeah.
That's what success looks like.
Do you feel like you've made it?
I do. But my goals are different than a lot of people in the trade. So, some of the guys, especially around my age, the goal is to get to retirement. My goal was never to get to retirement. My goal was to leave a mark and change something. And I have a very large social media presence that I started before it was cool to do that. So I'm like, and I don't think a lot of contractors still do it. It's usually utility linemen, which they have their good things, but it's just like a different view of the industry. And I've gone all over the country. I've helped a lot of guys get into the trade. I've helped keep guys safe, and that's probably what I'm most proud of.
Thank you so much for joining us. This was such an interesting conversation. I learned so much. I can't wait for everyone to hear your story and to learn more. And I think you're going to get a lot more comments and questions. So
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
excited about that.
Yeah, I'm very easy to find. If you just search my name, I'm very public with all my socials and things like that.
Can you tell people where to find you?
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm super active on LinkedIn because that's where all the old money is. And then Instagram, Facebook, just search Alex Wakeland. I'll pop up.
Great.
I'm on TikTok. My name is OnlySpans. So, that's the only one where my name isn't my name.
Great. Love it.